all of these things that we do at home, we haven't really empowered ourselves with the proper language, the business language, to own that kind of work as the high level skilled labor that it actually is, because for so long we weren't even allowed to say that what we do as mothers is a job.
Hello and welcome back to Mama What's Next, the podcast for women over 40 who are rebuilding, reinventing, or expanding through business or portfolio careers and who need to become visible to make that happen. And oh my goodness, I have someone super special for you today. And excuse my voice today. I have had a cold this week, so I'm doing my best. But we need to get this episode live now. You know what's funny? Sometimes the biggest thing that drives us forward is someone who told us we couldn't. Maybe it was a teacher for you who laughed at your dreams, or a friend who quietly doubted you, or your family, who knows. And today's guest took every single one of those moments and turned them into jet fuel. Literally her words. I love her so much, and I loved this conversation. I'm really excited to share it with you. She's a mom entrepreneur, CEO of a 9-figure tech company, a mama of 6, yes, 6 children. And she has just written a book last year that I think every woman over 40 doing meaningful work, whether that's building a business or going into freelance, figuring out what her next chapter even looks like, really needs right now. It's called The Manage Her, and so is her podcast, actually. And here's what I want you to hear. All those skills you use every single day, managing the chaos, keeping everyone going, project managing, solving problems before anyone even notices there was one. Aimee says those are not small things. Those are leadership skills, and we have been doing this our whole lives without anyone ever telling us, right? We talk about all of it: presence, boundaries, getting visible, believing in yourself again. And if you've ever laid awake thinking, do I really have what it takes to build something that actually matters? This episode is really for you. You need to listen to it. Every episode, I bring you a woman who rewrote her own story. Welcome to Mama What's Next, where your next chapter is meaningful, free, and finally yours. I'm Melanie, a visibility and brand strategist, helping women over 40 tell the story of their next chapter in a way that makes the right people say yes. And at Sunny Chapter, that's exactly what we do. And now let's get into today's conversation because I'm really excited about it. Enjoy. Your heart just needs a fresh start. I'm so excited to have you here today, Aimee. Thank you so much for joining me and making some time in your super, very busy year.
I'm so happy to be here, Mel. This will be so fun.
Yes, I'm really happy that you can share with our listeners a little bit more about how you manage your day-to-day life, but also all the things that you're working on at the moment. And you have a very big family. You have 6 children. You have a successful business, and you writing books. You have a podcast, the Manage Her podcast. I mean, where does it begin and where does it end? Tell me a little bit about yourself for everyone to get to know you a little bit better.
All right. Well, I am all of those things. I just try really to approach my life with presence. So when I'm with my children, I want to be with them. I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be working. When I'm with them, that's what I'm doing, right? And so when I'm at the office, that's what I'm doing right now. Everything's on do not disturb. I cannot be disturbed. And I think that's one of the ways that I'm able to get everything done is I'm not going to let anything disturb me from the one thing I need to be doing in this moment. So I'm really honoring and giving my attention to and my presence to the present moment. That's really one of my big stick to points. One of the things I really get upset at myself at if I realize that I'm trying to do too many things at once. If you're cooking dinner, cook dinner. And if the kids want to help you, that's awesome. But don't try to do too many things at once. Don't get into too many conversations. Don't get pulled away from the task so you can actually just enjoy the one thing that you're doing at the time. Because we fall into the multitask trap, and then you're really not doing anything very well. Because I do have so many things to do, I've really learned that if I really focus on one thing at a time, I'm going to do much better at giving my attention to the task and accomplish the task in a much more fulfilling way for me and probably for the other person, or, in allowing myself to finish the task in a much shorter period of time if it's work. Like last week, I was finishing my second book, and I gave myself 9 uninterrupted hours on Do Not Disturb at my desk in my office. And my kids were like, "We thought you were dead, Mom." And I'm like, you guys, if you guys interrupt me every hour, every 30 minutes, whatever it is, to ask me for if you can buy something on Amazon, or can I get this game, or can I go to my friend's house, or there are other people that they can ask. They can ask dad, they can ask the nanny. When I'm not in charge, there's some other big person that can handle the task. But it allows me to take 100% of my brain with me to focus on this one very important thing that I just really want to get done. And I was able to. In 9 hours, I was able to assemble my book, and it was almost completely there. And then the next day I flew to North Carolina, and I spent the weekend with my publisher and my writing coach. And we were like, this goes in, this I'm not sure about. I think this is a different book. And I slept on it. And just all intention, away from the kids, away from everybody, full attention in my subconscious mind. How am I going to fix this? And it changed. I was working on an equation for human potential, and it turned into a recipe. And then it fit beautifully in the book, and it turned into a poem. And it was like, wow, but it's amazing what we can do when we allow ourselves to be present and not distracted.
I would say that's easier said than done, because I find that very impressive that you can do that. I mean, just think about the time that we live in right now with all these distractions. I mean, just today, I remember I was talking with another mom, and we're trying to organize, a podcast interview and a new show format. And she's apologizing, saying, how the thing, with WhatsApp, and you're talking and you're messaging, and then when you miss the first top, getting back to people, and it slides down, you end up like it's gone, you forget about it. So you need to do it immediately. So I'm wondering, in that moment, I thought to myself, just think back to the days when my grandparents, even the way I grew up when I was young, we had phones still at home. Mm-hmm. We came home after play dates to sit down and actually call our friends and be on the phone for an hour. And we didn't have all these interruptions. My mom, it was much, much easier for her to be present when she was with us, because there was no phone. There was constantly going beep, 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 beep. And it's not just it's our social life. It's the social life of our children now that we have to organize all the sports activities and et cetera, et cetera. And on top of that, you have work on your phone. And it's I'm finding that so impressive that you sit here smiling like this, full of energy. And I'm like, oh, what's she taking?
It's all about, honestly, it's a practice. So it's like yoga or walking or anything else. It's a practice in having boundaries with your technology, because the technology came at us so quickly. It was almost like we're the lobster in the pot of boiling water. We didn't realize how rapidly the technology was kind of taking over our lives, and we need to become aware of the fact that the technology is taking over our lives. It's interrupting our timeline because it's interrupting us so often. It's actually interrupting the way that we perceive time and seasons because of the constant interruptions with notifications. If you can, turn your notifications off. If you can, put your phone on silent. And if you're with your kids, just dedicate one solid hour where the phone's just in a drawer. Everything will be okay for an hour. I promise.
Yes. I think it's the pressure that we're always like under, that people, I've even had this with a friend who was, sometimes people feel like they're not important to you when you don't respond immediately all the time. And I've had this conversation. I'm like, maybe it's like an unwritten rule that moms have, that we will give each other that, time. And if she can't respond for 2 days, is fine. It doesn't mean that you're not important. Of course, if it's 2 months, maybe. but generally, and I think sometimes that's hard to understand, maybe also for women that don't have kids, because you're just on completely different time management systems.
Yeah, it's really important that people, and I think my friends really understand that I don't usually have my phone with me. You can leave me a text message, you could leave me a voicemail, and I will get back to you. I will. But the likelihood of me actually answering my phone is pretty low. For my kids, yeah, it's pretty high, unless I'm working and they know that I'm out of touch. I'm on do not disturb. But I think that it's setting an expectation with people. Hey, I don't always have my phone on me. It's not personal. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's just about managing expectations at the end, right? And being like clear with yourself. How do I want to manage it and how can I get things done? But I'm finding it hard to even, like the way you described that 9-hour day. That would be a challenge for me. Like, I have to be very honest, because I realize how my brain is jumping from one to the next. And when I'm working in different projects or with different companies, I'm finding it hard to just stick to something these days. I found that easier back in the day, but now I feel that technology is definitely, you're right, it's changed us in ways that we're not even aware of, right?
Yeah, it's rewiring our brains for shorter periods of time. I have a degree, a master's in film and television production. And it was funny because we would talk about how watching sitcom TV was wiring people's brains for shorter chunks of time. But then music videos on MTV, because they were shorter format, they were actually wiring us for even shorter periods of time. Like episodic TV is about 15-minute segments of time that you have an attention span, where a music video on MTV when we were growing up was about 3 minutes. And then we got into the early 2000s, and the way that we started cutting films was there were no long cuts. Everything was, used to be like a 3-minute cut was short. And then in the early 2000s, we started cut. So the attention span that's been given to us by media, social media, television, and screen time has been shortening our attention span over the period of the last, I would say, probably the last 30 years, pretty intensively.
Yes. Yeah. And especially also like in obviously this kind of work now that we're doing, at least we're doing deep like conversation and thoughtful questions, and we're taking the time to get to know each other, right? But I'm feeling like obviously everything that we see everywhere, in social these days, it's all about the performance, the hooks, the faster, grab them. And when you listen to all these, all the advice, the marketing bros out there, I mean, on one side, I understand it and I'm interested to understand how do they really do it? But on the other side, I'm thinking, man, what do we do to ourselves? What are we doing to ourselves these days?
Yeah, we really are. And we're teaching the tricks of the trade, which most people didn't know, the whole hook, the whole, the marketing hooks that the film industry and the television industry have used for many decades. And now it's very common knowledge on social media, how to hook someone's attention, sensationalism, narrative affirmation, all of these things that are happening on social media now. But I think the long format podcast is the anti that. You know, I'm so happy that people are listening to long format podcasts because it's really it's the opposite of breaking your attention into tiny little bits. It's the fact that people are actually interested in listening to something for 30 minutes or an hour. Sometimes podcasts can be like an hour and a half long. I think that is the solution to increasing people's attention span is let's give them longer format to listen to. Let's let them listen to these amazing conversations of whatever topics they're interested in. I'm excited about this whole podcast world becoming so popular.
Yes, me too. You know, sometimes when people ask me in the beginning, why do you do it? It was a personal journey, but at the same time, for me, it's very much about getting to know people, which I've always loved. I always love to sit down, and especially now what we're doing, like we're talking about life and how you manage everything, but also we're going to talk about business. And I always loved doing that. I could do that for hours, and then to be able to share that and rework this into like a creative project, for me, that is really fulfilling work, you know?
Oh yeah, for me too. This is my favorite part of my week. Being on other people's shows, shooting my show, having this little bite of creative slice of heaven for me. This is my favorite thing that I get to do. This is my creative outlet. This is my maker's corner. You know, it's like I get to make something finally, because I felt I was so out of making for such a long. I was making humans, but I had always been an artist, a filmmaker, all of these things, and I had got into growing these big companies, and I didn't have as much time for these kinds of things. And so glad that I decided to carve out a little bit, put a little boundary of time in there for my own creativity again.
Now, Aimee, tell me, how do you, coming from film and media, how did you end up in tech and doing that? I mean, I love it. And I think you're an amazing example for women, for young girls growing up of what's possible. But how did that happen exactly, and why?
Okay, cool. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22. I got into real estate when I was in film school, and I started flipping houses. So I always had a nice little cash flow going on. I was able to, by the time I was 25, I had about $5 million worth of real estate. So I was doing well. And at that time, I started my first production company. When I was 30, I started a prenatal protein powder. It was a nutraceutical company. So I've had lots of companies. And then when I married my second husband, his family business was the technology business. He had been working in technology since he was 17, and he was working for other people at the time. And he did that for a little while. And then I looked at him one day and said, let's start our own company. So that's when we started Mohawk Network Solutions, and that was in 2012. And then we were selling to these value-added resellers, and we went to this really fun party, this sales kickoff party back in 2013. And I looked at my husband and I was like, why aren't we doing that? These guys are making bank. And it's the same 24 hours in the day, you know? And so in 2014, we started Tomahawk Information Solutions, and we started out we had a government contract, GSA contract holder, and we just kind of let it cruise for a few years. I was still working on my nutraceutical company at the time. And by 2020, a friend of ours who's a really high level sales guy was ready to leave his company and wanted to come over and hang out with us and help us grow out the commercial side of Tomahawk. And it felt like perfect timing. It was March 13th of 2020. So the day before the world shut down for COVID. So we signed his contract, but it was actually perfect timing because he had time to go in and come up with something brand new that no one else was going to market with. And he was studying the emerging technologies. He was studying all of this software as a service, what we call SaaS, which was basically going to replace all of these old licenses and the way that companies used to do business prior to COVID. You'd buy like one license for a software for your entire company. Now you have everything's like digital certificates. Every single one of your employees needs to have a license. It's a management nightmare. It's also, I think, more expensive for these companies. But the SaaS business has absolutely exploded in growth over the last 6 years. So that was sort of our way in the door was to try to figure out how we could help manage these new software contracts that were happening for all of these companies. And we were very, very lucky that we fell into a very good space. Just that, timing is everything in life. And that company has grown and grown and grown and grown. And I am the CEO of Tomahawk Information Solutions. And it has been an absolute pleasure to be in that role for my family and to watch this company grow the way that it has, to have the children be able to see how we as a family have grown this company really and grown Mohawk at the same time. We really have two very lovely companies now. And I feel like our children were very much involved with the growth of these companies. We've been growing them since they were little itty bitty. And, they were always there with us, with our clients, whining and dining, whether we were here in California or whether we're in Hawaii with clients. We definitely the whole family was involved in the growth of the companies. And I'm so proud of all of my children and my husband. We've all really stuck together. We've all pulled together when times have been hard. My husband got very sick during COVID, and I really had to step in fully for both the companies for a short while. And he's so proud of me for being able to do that for us. And I'm so proud of him for recovering his health and the way he's made such an amazing comeback.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And I'm happy to hear that. That must have been a tough time for you, on top of having such a challenging time in general, right? Mm-hmm. But having such a large family and then having these challenges with companies and the health. And, that's when you realize what the important thing is, in life when such critical health problems happen, right? So yeah, yes, that's good to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. Family is everything, and it really is. My people, my family, are my people, and they're a huge priority in my life. And I feel like this has been a season for people in my life. This season of my life has been about my children. Even though I have been growing these companies, my children have been a very important part of this season of my life. My children are all homeschooled. My children are very important to me. And when I'm not working, which I like to put boundaries around work. I'm not the kind of founder that's going to be working a 60-hour week. I'm the kind of founder that loves to implement systems. I love to empower my employees. I like to see people grow into their positions and feel like they have a sense of ownership there. I don't want to micromanage anybody. I would rather spend time with my small children. That time I'll never get back again. So I like to see my employees flourish in their positions and understand how to manage their own workload.
Yes. And you said something really important earlier that also comes from, in general, what your goal is in the work that you're doing now, also with the podcast. You say you want women to reclaim the roles of the CEO in their life and at home.
Yes.
What does that mean? What do you want them to do exactly?
So, this book, my first book, is called The Manage Her, which is I named it after, my podcast is named after this book. And this book really allowed me during that time when I was really managing the office and the house, I really realized, wow, I'm doing the same thing. I'm managing people, capital, and systems. Whether I'm at home, which is I'm absolutely biologically programmed to manage my household. I am biological, so much so that when my therapist asked me to write down everything I was doing for the house, I thought to myself, I don't even know if I could make a list that long because there's so many intricacies to the work that we do at home, whether it's, creating culture, we're project managing, we're masters of the inventory of the house. I mean, we probably know how much milk you have in your fridge, don't you? How many rolls of toilet paper you have ish,
always in charge and on top of things.
Always on top of, calendars, dentist appointments, closet rotations, all of these things that we do at home. We haven't really empowered ourselves with the proper language, the business language to own that kind of work as the high level skilled labor that it actually is.
Seems your heart just needs a fresh start.
great brands and thought leaders don't build authority by trying to win over algorithms. They build it through meaningful conversations and stories that get translated into multiple formats and touch points. So just like Red Bull isn't just a drink, it's a global media empire that started with inspiring conversations across high-energy touchpoints. Online brands turn long-form interview content into blog content, socials, and email series to build authority and trust across platforms. And it all starts by simply having a conversation. That's exactly what I do with my content studio Sunny Chapter. We start with a conversation, an interview, a real exchange of thoughts and ideas right here with me. Not a script, not you performing on camera. It's just you talking about your story, what you know, what you teach. And then we turn that conversation into content that builds credibility and trust for you online. Quietly, consistently, and with integrity. So if showing up online has ever felt icky, forced, or not really like you, then this is the method you've been waiting for. If that sounds like you, please do reach out to me at mel@sunnychapter.com. By the way, all the playbooks and frameworks we share here for you on Mama What's Next, we send them to you through our newsletter each week. So if you'd like to learn more, please do sign up. The link is in the show notes.
Because for so long, we weren't even allowed to say that what we do as mothers is a job. That is controversial to say that, but it really is. If we can own it as the job that it is, we can still have joy. Does it give me tremendous joy to be a mom? Heck yeah. Is it work? Yeah, of course. Of course it's work, and I take it very serious. It's serious work to me too. It's serious and it's important and people's lives depend on it. If you don't do it well, actually someone can die. So it's really the level of work that we do in our homes with our children is of utmost importance in society. It is highly skilled. If we were paying people to do these jobs, they would be 6-figure jobs, and there are multiple 6-figure jobs in that house. You're HR manager, you're a project manager, you're an inventory manager. All of these jobs are 6-figure jobs. Mm-hmm. And we do it for free, and we try to do it as quietly, nicely as possible. We don't want to burden anybody with anything. We don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And I've stepped back from that a little bit in my house. Really, with writing this book and then writing my second book, I'm realizing that it's okay for me to allow my husband to own some of this. That he's my partner. It's not 1950. We are equal partners in business and we're equal partners in our home. And he wants to own things in the home as well. He wants to be a partner in our home with our children. He doesn't want to be excluded from this. And so that's been a big part of the biggest shift for us has been, creating ownership for him, but also creating ownership for our children in the work that they can own at home too. Can they own their room? Sure, why not? It's a great place to start. Talk about low risk, place to start. Yeah, can you keep it up? Let's pick up your dishes. Let's make your bed. Can you own your homework? I'd love to see them owning their own homework. I don't want to micromanage it, just like I don't want to micromanage it at work. So a lot of the things, they go back and forth for me, where I'm really trying to come from a place of really compassionate, calm, assertive management energy, whether I'm in the office or whether I'm at home.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And all the things that you just explained about women. And I feel that's one of the critical points where also, due to societal, the image that this work has in society, right? But it really is acknowledging and stepping up, realizing how important this work really is. And not just that, but actually making people aware of it and owning that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And really giving each other high fives for the hard work that we do as moms too. I think it's acknowledging it in one another. It's something we can do for each other, that we can acknowledge the fact that it is hard work, that we can acknowledge the fact that there are days that you feel like you've done it very well. And there are days that you feel that you have really not done it well. And that it's a hard job, and it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And there is no other job like it.
Yeah, it's you can't compare it to anything. And the way you just described it as well, like life actually depends on it. Because I remember very early in my career, I was working for a beauty company, and everything was always important and so important. And we worked long days, and it was so much pressure, and, you know, the campaigns going out, and in cosmetics, it's like very high energy and very like, things, especially in cosmetics, because you have so many units, everything is rotating so quickly. You're constant. Actually, there's no downtime ever. Like in other industries, I think sometimes maybe you have because you have separate products, but in this it's like, and I remember this, she was not my boss, but like someone I looked up to and learned from at the time. And she said to me, Mel, you always have to remember, you know, we're not saving lives here. I was in my 20s, and I was like, and I just kept remembering always, I'm like, Melly, you're not like, this is not, life doesn't depend on it, right? And we just have to like bring ourselves back to that, because we tend to like have this invisible pressure. And that's another thing, you know, I want to talk to you about, the invisible pressure that women always feel. How do you manage that? How do you manage that personally?
I feel like for me, a lot of it was this big shift, the shift that we can observe ourselves as mothers, and that we're allowed to audit it. We can basically look and go, just because my mother did this, this, and this, does this still serve us at the time that we're at right now? You know, there's a lot of really toxic female traits that we picked up from our mothers, that they picked up from their mothers, that they picked up from their mothers, you know, stuff that really doesn't serve us any longer, stuff that really causes resentment inside of our bodies. And we don't need to carry that stuff anymore. If you're doing something that makes you feel resentful, let's do an audit on that. Let's figure out if that's something that you could omit, if that's something you could automate, or if that's something you could delegate to someone else. It's time for us to really examine and get out of this subconscious programming of motherhood, and really examine motherhood for what it is, and what moves the needle and what doesn't move the needle. You know, the most important thing that we can do is spend time one-on-one with our children. You know, our kids really don't care if the dishes are done. Our kids don't need elaborate birthday parties with elephants. You know, our kids need us to get down on the floor and play with them. Our kids need us to build a fort out of couch cushions, or grab some sheets out of the linen closet and build a fort, or do some imaginative play, or start a lemonade stand, or do something creative, or make an art project, you know, anything where they can actually interact with us. This is what they really need. We're putting too much emphasis on things that aren't that important for them. And we need to get back to what motherhood should really be about. And let's get back to the basics. Like, how do we play? How can we be present with our kids? Even if you don't like to play, you know, my kids are like, Mom, can you make popcorn for us? Like, you bet. Like, I love to make popcorn in the pan from the kernels with the coconut oil, and I melt the butter, and I do the whole thing, salt, butter, the whole thing. And to my kids, that's the best part of the day. Let's make the popcorn. Let's put on a movie. Let's grab some blankets. You know, there's plenty of ways that we can be in communion, you know, commune with our children. How can we be really fully present with them? Even if it's for 1 hour every day.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing. And how do you do that with 6 children. So you said your youngest is 3 years old.
Yes. So I've got 3 and 5. So that's one little batch. And then I've got 11, 13, and 15. And that's another batch. And then we have my husband's daughter, whose mom passed away when she was 13. She is now 27. And so lots of different batches, everything you can imagine as far as going on in life, from, potty training to learning to drive to our oldest is a single mom. Her partner passed away from cancer in November, and she's just getting through life. And that's just a whole other weight to carry as a mom. Honestly, it's a very different type of relationship to have with a child when your child is going through something like that. But it's dates, making time for everybody. With the little kids, it's easy because I come home from work and they're just like right there in the living room, ready to hang out. With the older kids, it's like making sure I have time to go to Starbucks. The 15-year-old, the 14-year-old, they're like, could we go to Starbucks? And we'll go get a Starbucks, and then we'll go drive down to the beach, and we'll go look at the waves, and we'll talk about life. With the 11-year-old, that's like, can we go for a bike ride? And we'll go down to the beach. We can ride about a mile from our house and go down to the beach and skip rocks and, just talk about life. And with Hannah, now our oldest, she's back in Texas. So it's mostly like hop on a call, make sure I'm doing, texting her and hey babe, you okay? How's it going? I'm thinking about you, missing you, or hop on a call and talk to her, at least once a week, or whenever she needs me. I'm always here for her. But, just making sure you get those touch points with everybody. Mm-hmm. That's the important thing. It's the best part of my day. They're my favorite humans on the planet. So making sure I get a little touch point with everybody to check in with everyone. And then bedtime too is such an important time. It really sets kids up and makes them feel super safe. Books, read a couple books. I rub a lot of feet. With my older kids, it's like, Mom, can I have my supplements? And, it's, they're so cute. But yeah, that's, just making time for everybody, making sure everybody has a little niched out time where they can get some one-on-one, some FaceTime and ear time. Really, honestly, make time to listen to them.
Yeah. Do they share with you everything still? Because, like these days you have, what do you feel is the secret? Because I think a lot of parents and, mums, they struggle these days because kids become distant and they might feel they're not sharing as much anymore. How do you manage that? Like, what's the secret?
With one of my sons, he started to pull away around 13, and a girlfriend of mine said, don't let him pull away from you. The more he tries to pull away, the tighter you pull him, especially at the teenage years. And then we were having a conversation about this in the kitchen like a couple weeks ago. And he goes, most of my friends' parents have given up on them. Because I was like, why do the parents allow their children to behave this way? Because my children are lovely human beings and they're wonderful and they don't act like that because that's not acceptable to me. And I think that's one of the things I've always, when they get the sassy mouth or want to, there's a tone that is a teenager's going to want to take with you. And for me, it was like, hey, that's not going to work for me. That's unacceptable. I don't talk to you like that. And I expect you to speak to me kindly the way that I speak to you. I will help you get anything you want in life. I am your biggest advocate. I am here for you, but I need you to be kind to me through this period. And just having that, like, come to Jesus talk, like for serious, like Caesar Milan would do with a naughty dog, making sure that this child knows that I'm the alpha, that I have calm, assertive energy, that I can lead this child through this difficult time, that he doesn't need to lean on his peers to lead him through this time, but that his adults in his household can help lead him through this time. I think that's the big one. When kids start to pull away, pull them closer. If they're spending too much time on technology, take it away. Yeah. If the technology is pulling your kids away, get control of your Wi-Fi, put it on a power strip, turn it off. You can do this. You are allowed to do this. I do this. I turn it off every night at 10 p.m. The power strip, Wi-Fi's off. It's
Good
bedtime.
night.
Yeah, we sleep. We have healthy sleep patterns. We have healthy boundaries with our technology. Cell phones are on airplane mode. Cell phones are put away in other rooms. We have to teach our children how to live with technology. Being a woman in technology, I can tell you that the higher you get up with the people in technology, the more boundaries they have around technology in their homes and especially around their children.
Right. Yeah. So we're just not, I think many people don't take it seriously enough. And obviously, because it does a lot more to children and their brains than it does to us. And it's already affecting us so much. And I think it's really freeing you saying that now, because this whole, like your positioning as to like reclaiming the role of the CEO and the managing her, like her, obviously, and I really love that, to be honest. You know, I love that you are telling women to, I mean, I think we started like 5 to 10 years ago telling women, you know, you've got to put your oxygen mask on and stuff first, and yada, we're past that, right? I think
Yes.
Now we need to, it's right, like you're actually taking a step forward. You need to be comfortable stepping up and saying no, and it's okay that it's a no, and to manage yourself, but as like them as well, right?
Yes. First you and then everyone else. So you got to manage yourself, make sure that you're coming from a place of love, that you're not frustrated before you go out and manage the children or your spouse. You really need to be sure that you're coming, your feet are well grounded, that you've been doing your practice, that you've got your good boundaries with your technology, because sometimes the technology can just make us feel so anxious, so stressed. Exactly. And it's, you know, let's not let it do that to us anymore. We have enough to do, and our jobs are really important as mothers. Let's manage this technology. Let's put some boundaries around it so that we can be better moms, so that we can be better spouses. And really, let's come from a place of self-management first, because if you're not managing you, you're really not going to manage anyone very well.
Yes. Where do you find, like, for yourself, like to find that love? Because I loved the words that you used before and how you were explaining it, because I think I do it similarly with my daughter. Every time we get to a point where, you know, the voice gets loud and she gets like really taking things out on me, mainly what I tell her is I remind her that we want to be respectful with each other. And the way I speak to her, I expect her to speak to me too. Yes. And that brings her back really quickly, rather than yelling back or like telling her like how it's, I always bring it back to that, like, let's be kind and respectful. And somehow it does the trick, you know, even if we have these little glitches here and there, of course, which is normal, as everyone does, right?
Yes.
So I think that's really good advice. But
it's leading with love, I think, is like that, you know, lead with love. Because if you're trying to make a correction in your child, let's come from that place of, I love you so much. I love you too much to let you act like this. It's one of my favorite sayings, because it's true. Like, we have done so much for these children, and we love them so much, and we want so much for them. And when we see them acting in a way that's destructive, that's unhealthy, that's toxic, that's manipulative, it's really our job as mom to come in and say, hey, let's not do it that way. Let's try this instead. Let's, you know, and sometimes I have had to put on like the breathing or the sound bowls on YouTube. I had, when one of my children was little, he was having really bad anxiety. And so I grabbed some frequency from YouTube that, you know, I think it's like 435 megahertz frequency, the frequency of the earth, I think 437. And then we did some sound bowls on YouTube, and I'm like, let me give you some skills to help you ground back into your body when you're really getting out of your body. Like we need to learn how to manage, like, even a simple technique like box breathing for ourselves is something that if we can learn to master that, we can teach that to our children, and that's just like in 4 breaths, hold your breath for 4 breaths, out for 4 breaths, and then hold the breath out for 4 breaths. That's box breathing. Very simple, doesn't cost anything, but it's one little technique. It's as we learn to manage ourselves better, we learn to teach our children to manage themselves better.
Yeah, that was my question actually leading up to this. I wanted to ask you, what are the techniques that you use to even like for yourself, right? Because we all, there's always situations when maybe things get out of hand or you have difficult clients you have to deal with. And at the same time, other things are like obviously, and having such a big family and a challenging big business, like there are things happening. Like how do you pull yourself back?
Yes, my practice. My practice is meditation. A quick one. I only have time, usually about 10 minutes a day, but I do it, even if it's messy, even if it's not perfect. Practice is practice. It's not perfection. I also am a yogi, and I have been a yogi for 17 years, and I love yoga. And I do have my non-negotiable classes every week that I go to for yoga. Moving your body is super important. We live in these bodies. They are animal bodies. They need movement. And I do have a Pilates class that I go to every week. So I think for some, it's whatever exercise you like. Do something, walk, run, Pilates, yoga, whatever exercise looks like to you, a little bit of that. You need to make time for that. That needs to be part of your practice. A little bit of meditation or prayer, whatever is in your wheelhouse, do that. Yeah. Do a little tiny teensy weensy bit every day. Then the box breathing is just lovely. If you really need to catch yourself and bring yourself back into your body, just pranayama is what we call it in yoga. And it just means breath work. It's one of the yamas, and it's a big part of that whole yogic practice. It really is a great way to reconnect to your body and your mind in a short period of time. Yeah, those are my big practices for myself that I've learned over all these years. A lot of this stuff is going to be in my next book.
Yes. Well, everybody go buy the book. Coming soon. Coming soon.
Yes.
Yeah, well, because it's not easy, like managing all that and talking about managing it all. Was there a moment, obviously, with going through your journey when managing it all has stopped working, where you thought,
No. Yes, absolutely. I think life is like that. I think when you think you've got it all figured out, it will throw a little twist at you. Life definitely had thrown in the last few years. It's thrown a couple of doozies at me, which I get into in my book and my second book. And, when it does, a lot of times it's coming from that mindset of, this is happening for me, not to me. And what lesson can I learn from this experience? How can this help me grow? How is this experience going to show me something I was unable to see before? Because I've been through the fire in the last 6 years. And I have to say, I came at it from a place of personal growth. Like, I'm going to grow from these experiences. I want to see what I haven't been seeing. I want to be able to get out of my own blind spots, which is one of the hardest things to do, because some of the blind spots that we have, we've had them our whole lives and we don't even realize they're there. And really, honestly, journaling. Girls, start journaling. Journaling can give you so much perspective on your life. I started, writing these books, and it was in the journaling, in the writing, that I was able to make my own personal breakthroughs in my life, that I was able to kind of see blind spots that I think would have held me back in this entire lifetime had I not found them. I had no idea. I was carrying strange stories from childhood, stories of unworthiness, stories of not being significant. My mom was really busy. My mom worked a lot. And when she was with me, she wasn't always present with me. She would be on the phone And so that's one of the reasons why I really preach paying attention to your children, is because when you don't pay attention to them, it can make them feel insignificant or unworthy. That was a wound that I carried with me, and I actually carried it into my intimate relationships with me. It didn't come into my business. It didn't come into my work. It didn't come into my parenting. But for some reason, I was lovelorn. I had the hardest time in my relationships with my husbands. I've been married twice, had the same pattern twice, and finally was able to step out of and able to see this blind spot that I had been unable to see before through journaling and just working through. It was actually fun. I was playing with Claude, which is an AI, which I love AI. I will tell you all my tools. But Claude is awesome. Claude can really help you see your blind spots. Chat can too. It's can be because you can be very honest, with it. And sometimes other people can see what we can't see. And sometimes those other people, it's just AI. Yes. But yeah, being able to see that, being able to make that connection and know that, wow, my feeling of insignificance made it difficult for me to be a significant other. Whoa. Okay. And then I was able to do that work. And now the relationship that I have with my husband is so much richer, so much deeper, so much. I almost don't even have the words for it. To me, it feels like magic. The fact that we were able to come to this kind of depth, to have this kind of intimacy in our relationship. It's really like the words came to me to bear witness to each other. Yes. And I feel like I'm here to witness him and all of his humanness. And he's here to witness me and all of my humanness, which is messy. And, it's not perfect, but sometimes you just need somebody to see you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what women crave so much. Like we crave as mothers, but many women, I think much more even to be seen as the woman. I mean, it's beautiful what you just shared. And I think many would, give so much to be experiencing this, but I'm sure, when you say that, to witness someone fully means also to accept them fully, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's the hard part. It's scary. There's a big part of fear. Listen, this next book is going to be all about this, girls. I can't wait to take you guys through this journey that I've been on, how fear and avoidance can create these walls around ourselves that we don't even want to have around ourselves in our intimate relationships. How we have to face our fears and we have to stop avoiding the things we've been avoiding. For me, it was conflict. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. It's such ancient programming. I was talking to Dr. Danielle Dowling, who wrote a book called Good Girl, Bad Mom. That's her book. Good Girl, Bad Mom. And we were talking about, women, we have in our DNA, deep down, we have germ cells, and germ cells carry DNA from basically from our ancient ancestors. And so somewhere in that motherhood DNA is this idea that we're not allowed to say that it's hard. We're not allowed to admit when we're struggling. All of these things are bad. No, you can't admit you're having a hard time or you're struggling or you're not having fun or, that you're displeased or you're not having a 5-star experience in some way, right? But that's really old. It comes from a time when we were afraid of being left behind by the tribe. We were in a tribe of 17 people. And if you were too difficult, sure, you'd get left behind, but we're now in the modern world and we're operating in a different place now, and you aren't going to get left behind for having these feelings. Everybody feels these things. Yeah. Everybody has days where it's hard. We all need each other, and now we're living so completely outside of a tribe. We're trying to do all of this work that we would have done with our grandmothers and our mothers and our sisters and our aunties, and we're trying to do it all by ourselves.
Yeah. Which, and to show the whole world we can do it, right? And we're almost at breaking point, and many are, just to show that we can do it all, that we can do better. And then the whole competition between women come, that layer on top of everything, where we are sometimes, and social, I mean, you would have seen it, it's often women at each other's throats to like
Yes.
attack each other. And I'm going, yeah, and that's the tribe. And we got to come back to that kindness and the support and the understanding for how hard this all is, right?
Yeah, we need to get back to a place of cooperation.
Yeah.
I actually think a lot of the problems of women will be solved by women figuring out how to do this together. Yeah. You know, I had a woman named Lindsay Dowd on my show, and she was saying when she was working, she had a group of moms in her neighborhood, and there were 5 of them, and they all took a night of the week and would cook dinner that one night. So they would cook 5 times whatever they were cooking, and every night someone else would cook dinner. So you only had to cook dinner once a week. And it's in these ideas of how can we as women be more cooperative so that we're not operating on these islands, but we're somehow, you know, how can we do this with childcare? How can we do this with meal prepping? How can we work together? I know we can. And I think technology is going to help us do this even better. But I think it's going to be the women using this technology that are going to figure out how to make life easier for women.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's so important that we like, and obviously like the work that you're doing now coming from this place where you have built so much and you have this family, like this place where you can really share your stories and your experience with so much kindness, with so much love. And I think these voices are really important in today's time. And I'm so grateful to you also that you're doing that you're building that, because it's so important that we get louder, that women are listening, right?
Yeah, legacy work is so important. I hit 45 and I realized it was time for me to leave a legacy for my children, for my daughters. And I thought, okay, I won't always be here. You know, I really had that feeling right when I hit 45 years old. And so I wrote my first book really with my 2 daughters in mind, Hannah, the oldest, and Indy being my little baby girl, and knowing that they're going to be in very different generations, that they're going to have very different experiences in motherhood and all in life, and the world's going to be so different in 20 years for Indy. And the second book, which is just another embodied piece of work where I just really wanted to take what I've learned from this life experience that I've had and really kind of hopefully be able to help other people get through difficult things. You can do hard things. I've done hard things. It's, life isn't easy, but it's beautiful.
Yes.
And it's finding the beauty and finding the connection and finding the love that keeps us going.
Yes, for sure. And I was going to ask you earlier already, but we're now on this topic. Obviously, you're very ambitious, right? When I would say, I admire that a lot. And obviously I admire a lot also like the whole journey, like that you started out so young, building companies and having that self-belief. So there's two parts of the question, actually. So firstly, women struggle much more with that generally, with believing in ourselves and having that, having the positive belief that we can actually do this, that we are capable, that we belong there to build something, especially now that we have so much change in the world, that women starting to build businesses is a much more common thing than it was like 10 years ago. There's a lot of women building portfolio careers. So I want to ask you about that particularly. Yeah. And then your why, like why do you do it all? So you start with whatever you want to start with.
Okay. I'd say if you're feeling that way, read The Manager. My first book is really all about, unveiling the invisible work and showing it for the leadership that it really is. But it really kind of digs into the idea. I think that women, especially women with children, I feel the best work that they can do is something that they're passionate about. It's usually like a little side gig. It's something they can do in the time so that they can still drop their kids off at school and still pick them up. But have a little something, that is theirs, that they can grow. I love the idea of just being a stay-at-home mom, but I think sometimes it's nice to have a little something, a little creative outlet, a little passive income, whether it's making, you're making shirts on Etsy or whatever you're into. I know in my neighborhood, I have some of my happiest, most well-adjusted mom friends. One's a marriage and family therapist. She gets to set her very nice hours. Another one is a myofacial therapist. They've both been on my show. The myofacial therapist used to be a dental hygienist, and she worked like 40 hours a week. And then she became a mom, and she was like, this sucks. I can't pick him up from school. She was just really struggling that she couldn't go to the parties and do the activities and go on the field trips and all that kind of thing. And she got very passionate about the myofacial work, became a myofacial therapist, started her own business, and then dropped down to 1 day a week with the dental hygienist work. And now she doesn't do it at all. Now she does full-time myofacial. So there's a lot of ways that you can, there's so many things that women can do rather than just working a 40-hour work week for an employer as an employee. Plus, you get the benefit of the write-off when you do have your own little sole proprietorship or your little LLC, or even if you want to do an S Corp, you're going to get the tax write-offs that come with that too. There's so much. Watch my episode with Barbara Shreehan. She talks all about it. She's my tax coach. I'm not a tax expert, but she is. But there's so many benefits to having your own little business. There's a lot that goes into it. I definitely would love to put together a course on how to start a small business, especially with my mother. My mom was Entrepreneur of the Year in 1988. She's owned every kind of business you could imagine. And I would love to put together a little course with her where we can kind of take women who didn't grow up like I did. I grew up in a house. My father is a professor, was the head of the business department. And then my mom was Entrepreneur of the Year. So I had it was nonstop business talk. We were constantly, my mother did the capital raise for Dita sunglasses on our living room floor when I was in high school. Wow. And so she did it. She raised $1 million on the pink sheets, but most people don't have those kinds of experiences, with private placement memorandums and all of these things that I got to do when I was a kid. But I'd love to put together some sort of a course so that we could kind of do, like a 101 on business entity formation. How do you do it? What do you need to do to comply? Because I think for women, working a 40-hour work week for someone else, especially when you have little kids, it seems sad. And I think we can do better.
Yeah. And I think women are waking up to that fact that we end up nowadays, we're paying other people to take care of our kids so that we can go to work. So somehow there's something wrong in this whole construct and system, right? And the thinking that we should be doing that, because many women actually don't want to do it. They want to be with their children much more, but they feel they're not allowed to. So it's a lot about permission and allowing us to create different businesses and work lives.
Yeah, so that we can have a better work-life balance. Yeah. The only way you're going to get that is when you're your own boss. And you have to be a nice boss to yourself. You can't be a mean boss to yourself. Yeah. You've got to... True. Yeah, have good boundaries around your work, too, because it can take over your life if you let it. So, even when you have your own business, you definitely need to practice having boundaries with your work. My husband was always very good about that. When I had my nutrition company, I was so excited. And I remember I brought my work home with me one night and he said, no, we don't work through dinner. not in this house. And I thought, okay, because I grew up in a workaholic house. You know, you could work all night long if you wanted to in my family house. So, and my mother.
Yes.
So for me, learning to have a little boundaries with it too, was like, oh, okay, cool. And that also made me a better mom, better spouse, having boundaries.
Yeah. And obviously you learned it also through seeing the opposite at home. And that was another question. Obviously, it's nice that you shared that now about how the way you grew up, because this is how we're being shaped. And obviously people that don't grow up in entrepreneurial households, it's a very different experience, and you were much more used to thinking that way of creating and building your own future, building your own company, your own business, because it's always been normal for you growing up, right?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, that was just it was kind of it's so funny to me. I was talking to the kids this morning, and I realized that my kids said, "What did you want to be when you were little?" And I thought to myself, well, for sure when I was in first grade, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I really did. But the funny thing is, I never thought I'm going to be an entrepreneur, which was the most obvious answer. Of course I was going to be an entrepreneur. How did I not know that I was going to be an entrepreneur? So on this morning, my daughter and I said, well, what are you going to be? And she said, I'll be a mother and an entrepreneur. She's 5.
But they obviously put the two together already. So it's the important piece.
I'm like, good job, kid. All right. You got it figured out before me. I like it.
And Aimee, your bigger why? Why all of that for you?
For me, I think, I'm 5'2". I'm a very little woman, and I always felt like the world kind of underestimated what I could do, and I took it as a challenge. For me, it was a personal challenge. I always kind of felt like the world thought, oh, you're so little and you're cute and you're bubbly and you'll probably just, I literally told my counselor in high school that I wanted to be a genetic engineer, and he laughed at me. He said, oh, no, you're too bubbly to do anything like that. I was a computer art student, and I was playing with 3-dimensional wire frames, and I was making these amazing sculptures, and I was realizing that this would be the future of biology, and that this is how we're going to shape and understand the much smaller world. And he laughed at me. And from that moment on, I went, okay. All right. Challenge accepted, world. You got it. And so, I think whether I was remodeling homes, I was 22 years old. I looked like I was 16. People would come over to my house, the neighbors, and ask me where my parents were. Oh no, they don't live here. This is my house, actually. I think I accepted the challenge along the way. My parents were both good examples of how you do big things. And even if you fail, you keep on keeping on. That's just part, failure is just part of the road to success. And so I've just kept on going, no matter what it was. I love the challenge. I love to see the looks on their faces when I do things that they say I can't do. Yeah. Like I want to turn Tomahawk into $1 billion company. I'm like, watch me.
I was going to ask you what's next. What's next for you? There's maybe like 1 or 2 other questions, but since you're already talking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Scale, grow, keep going. I mean, I'd love to see this company, hit $1 billion. When it hits $1 billion valuation, I'll be so proud of myself and my husband, of our ability to grow something so big, just because it's been a challenge for us. It's not even about the money. It's honestly about proving to to other people that you can do things. It's about making the impossible possible. It's because every time that somebody proves that you can do something, then other people see it and they go, okay, I can do that too. And that's, for me, that's the thing. That's my why. And my what's next is my next book. And I want to have a conference for the Manage Her in 2026. I'm thinking it's going to go in October of 2026. And, be able to get all of these women together, women I've had on my show, women who are supreme examples of how we can do this and have a work-life balance and live in a place of joy and love instead of coming from a place of burnout in our lives.
Like, can you imagine all these women coming together? It'd be so amazing. Like,
you're invited, Mel.
As one of the last questions, so that I don't keep you so long now, if you had one piece of advice for your daughter now, your youngest, like what would it be?
For Indy, for my baby girl, always use the technology that comes in your time. Leverage into it. It's a tool. Always know that you are loved, deeply loved, and always know that you can solve any problems in your life from coming from that place of love in yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the guiding light. And it's been a beautiful also throughout the conversation we've just had, this guiding light, having the love and the kindness as that red thread through everything, really, everything you do, everything you teach, everything you pass on to, your family, your kids. So,
yeah. It's important. I feel like love is the guiding principle in our lives. And I think that it makes life way more fun, way more joyful, way more enjoyable. I think if you're not coming from a place of love, you're coming from a place of fear, and fear is no fun at all.
Unfortunately, that's what's keeping us stuck in a place where we don't actually want to be, right? And that you said that earlier, that you wanting to prove to other people who may not believe that you're capable and then actually make it work. It's great advice. I think I might have had that driver too in my life. So it helps.
It really does. You take what the world gives you and you use it as fuel. Yes. And sometimes it can just be the doubt of other people. And instead of letting that wear you down, use it as jet fuel to propel you to the next level.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Aimee, thank you so much. We might have to do a follow-on on this conversation. I had so many questions, but we just can't get through them. It's been such an amazing conversation now, and what you've shared has been so valuable to me, but also to everyone listening, because it's been amazing advice with regards to how you do manage everything. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Absolutely, Mel. I loved it. Loved every minute of it. Yeah. Be sure to come over, subscribe to the Manage Her podcast. Yes. If you're interested. We're on all the platforms, and I'm Aimee. I'm at the Manage Her everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, all the things.
Okay. That's where we find you. All the handles. We link everything in the show notes as well. And thank everyone for listening. Thanks for spending time with me today, Aimee. Bye. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Mel. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today, especially if you're a female founder building a mission-driven service-based business and you want to stop performing and start leading in life and business, because this is really about building your next chapter on your terms. And my guest today, Aimee, is such a great, fantastic example of what that can look like when you build a business in a way that works for your real life as a working mother, and then keep building your presence and visibility by sharing your story in a way that can inspire other women too and reach the right people. She runs a multi-million-dollar tech company. She writes books. She hosts a podcast. And she's a mom of 6. And what stands out most is not that she does everything, because that really impresses me too, but it's about how she does it.
She does it with radical presence, with clear tech boundaries, and a real understanding that motherhood is leadership too. That's really what I love about storytelling and content strategy and personal branding for women over 40. Because when women entrepreneurs stop hiding the real parts of their lives and start using their stories and their experience and their voice and their point of view to build trust and connection and business visibility. Because so often the things we think are just part of our everyday life are actually the very things that make us interesting and relatable and memorable. And when that gets into your content, whether it's on a podcast or on LinkedIn or in a way you talk about your work, it helps the right people see you more clearly. It helps the right people find you and connect with you. It's not about performing or trying to sound perfect or trying to sound like other people. It's about showing up in a way that feels true to you, telling your story in your own words, and sharing your learnings and letting your story do some of the work for you. So now the key takeaways, all the points that we want to keep in our minds and remember. Number 1, presence over hustle. 1 focused hour with your kids or 1 deep work block matters much more than trying to do everything for everyone else or everything at once. Tech boundaries matter. Notifications off, do not disturb on, phones away. Real connection needs space and presence. Number 3, motherhood is leadership. Managing people, systems, calendars, emotions, and everything at home is real work. Number 4, self-management comes first. You can't lead your family, a business, or a team if you're running on empty. So make sure you look after yourself first. Number 5, lead with love, not resentment. Notice what drains you and what no longer works and what you've been carrying that you don't need to carry anymore, and get rid of it. And the last point, very important, your way can work. From flipping houses to building a tech company with 6 kids, Aimee shows that women entrepreneurs over 40 can build in a way that fits their life season. And not just that, she shows women and inspires everyone that we can make this work on our own terms. We can make this work if we are creating our own rules. She's teaching us that women, that working mothers can build in a way that works for us and for our family. And that's a really important point. Please do share today's interview. Please do leave us a review. Please do subscribe. Top right-hand corner on Apple Podcasts, there's a little plus sign, click plus, because so many people are downloading the episodes. But we also would very much love if you subscribe to the podcast, and then you get all the episodes automatically and you don't miss anything. So thank you so much for tuning in today, for spending time with us. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.
Stop the battle within your soul. You know it's all in your head. Being sad doesn't make you smart. It seems your heart just needs a fresh start.